Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons.
Thank you for your support. Enjoy the video.
Hey there, Rulers, DMO73 here, bringing you feature match footage for the week. Today I am playing the Keyword Adam control deck that you have seen on earlier this week from the Gauntlet video, but it's a little bit updated, and I'm playing against John Miller, who is playing a red, white, black ISIS deck. So this is very similar to what you saw between me and Patrick, but it is at the local level, it is the full match, and we'll see kind of how it goes. We made a little bit of few tweaks to the Adam list since the Gauntlet video that hopefully you'll get to see, and John is of course playing his own kind of take on red, white, black ISIS. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right in. Getting things all started. Keyword Adam is going to be on the draw. If you're playing against a pure red-white version of ISIS, you don't really care about this too much. Red, white, black is a little bit more concerning, particularly because they have Fallen Angel of Fiery Vengeance, which can answer our Acolyte of the Sun, which is not super great because we really want that card out first turn, especially if we're on the draw. But we'll have to see kind of how it plays out. So getting it all shuffled up here. Adam choosing to only keep one card, or no, 2 cards getting shipped to the bottom. And John choosing to keep all 5, so a strong starting hand, supposedly. First turn, Scorched Bales, and then see if it's Guinevere or Fallen Angel. It is the Fallen Angel of Fiery Vengeance, not what the Adam deck wants to see, especially since I do have an Acolyte of the Sun in hand. Ultimately, there is justification to playing the Acolyte now, just to have him, waste it right now, the Fallen Angel, just to get it out of the way. It's not the best move. An equally good move could be just to leave the will up rather than play it and see what he does with the Fallen Angel first. But we're choosing to let it happen. Then he's going to go ahead and pay the 2 life to burn the Acolyte out of the way and go get another Acolyte from his deck. So that's one of the techs that Patrick and I had talked about is introducing that card in the deck purely to kind of help a little bit with this matchup, just in having that instant speed spot removal for minus 400 is really relevant, especially to things like Acolyte. Adam's really the only deck who's making use of something like that, but if you let Adam just get away with playing Acolyte of the Sun, it just gets to kind of start running away from things. Down comes another Fallen Angel, and then he's going to play a Desert Miner with his other Open Will, tapping himself out. Going into my turn, gonna go ahead and move to recover. Nothing during the upkeep. Hit another Heat Ray. I think at that point we choose to pass the turn. You see I have double Kaguya in hand, a Dark Alice, an Izanami, Misty Woods, which I can't cast right now, and I think the other card is an Athena, or Athenia, which is kind of one of the new techs that we've brought into the deck. We're not really too concerned with the early game aggression here, potentially. If he chooses to try to tap out here to answer, chooses to tap out here to play an Isis, yes, that's a little bit of a concern, but we have a Dispel to pop the 1 moon before he could make use of it effectively, and it would tap him out. So that would leave us open to being able to do Zeus's Grand Lightning next turn, get it off the board, and deal with stuff that way. We also don't really care about the 800 damage because that's just letting us use Whispers of an Angel, draw a card, and then Dispel to get another 1,000 life we need to. So we're really sitting at a 5,800 life point game. John seeing if he wants to try to do something else with this will or just leave it open for the turn. One of the takeaways that people have kind of been recognizing, especially against decks is you don't necessarily just want to hard slam the Isis. John does choose to take the risk here, goes and gets the Isis. I don't have any kind of response to it. If I had the ability to play like Erendite or something, that would have been probably a pretty punishing play, because I could have flashed in Dark Alice, gotten the Atom to the grave, played an Erendite, canceled it, then he just paid 3 for an 8/8, doesn't get a moon, doesn't get anything else. This does, however, let me, make a little bit better use of Dispel, because I can pop the moon during his turn, because he's probably not going to do anything with the 1 will. Pop it, and then also use Whispers of an Angel to gain 8 and draw a card, and then the Isis is once again just that kind of vanilla. So we're going to try to use Dispel on the moon. John choosing to use the moon and making a really good play with a rune from his rune deck, specifically Godly Aura, which is going to generate him another moon and then draw him a card. So this is a good kind of counter to the Dispel play. It gets him to draw a card, it keeps his moon around, it replaces itself, it still keeps the 1-up. Ultimately, Adam just wants to get that rune up anyway, so it's not a huge deal, but it might have just been better in that situation to gain the 1,000 life. But there is something to be said about just trying to hit the moons to keep them as low as possible against Isis. Choosing to use the Whispers as well, gain 8 and draw a card. Moving into draw phase for my turn, calling Stone. Finally seeing that Light Vapors, which is exactly what I want to see. Does look like I have that Atom in hand at this point. And access to a Dark Alice. We know that there's that Nyarlathotep there. We got to figure out kind of how we want to answer stuff right now. We also have a Perfect Loki, though our grave isn't very full. And an Izanami, which really helps with being able to potentially revive anything that we're dealing with. We're going to go ahead and, during our own turn, play the Dark Alice. Seeing if John has anything in response to the trigger. He says no. Choosing what we want to discard here. Discarding the Atom, so turning that online. There's that Athenia, you can see it. Kind of trying to decide what might be in John's availability here. Ultimately choosing to discard, I believe, the Athenia at this point. Maybe not, we might have discarded a Kaguya. And then we'll pass the turn. The Athenian grave with an Izanami is a really cute way to be able to do stuff. Oh, it seems like we're still doing it on our turn. So we're going to go ahead and use the Izanami effects to get... Oh, no, we're just going to cast. We had the Izanami in hand, so we're just going to go ahead and cast it because Alice gives us Perfect Will. So we can use Energize in 2 to play the Athenia, recover 3 stones, and then kind of keep the train of momentum going here. Thinking about playing a potential Acolyte of the Sun just to ramp 1. We do decide to do that. And we burn the Energize. We still have 3 will up going into his turn. We're still kind of caught up, but we have another body on board, which feels pretty solid. Seeing if John wants to do anything with his 1 moon before recovery. I don't think there's too much that Isis can do with just 1 will that it would want to do during the upkeep. It might want to just save it for things like in response to something. So initiating the action might not be the best play. Choosing to call Stone, we know he has that. We know he has access to the Nyarlathotep in hand, but with only 1 moon, how much value is that really going to generate if he's going to try to awaken it or something like that? He also has to be careful about the awakening because he doesn't want it to get Kaguya'd. Raise and Revive, choosing to burn the Raise and Revive on the Athenia here. Ultimately saying that's okay. The main reason is because if he tries to do a follow-up play this turn, we have Kaguya Will, which is exactly what we want. So wasting the removal spell there on the Athenia, I don't necessarily think was the right play, especially since you know that Red-White is also usually, Red-White Adam is probably also playing Raise and Revive, so it could turn into a punish, where I get to, you know, at the end of your turn, Raise and Revive, bring back my Athenia, do a bunch of combo stuff, and tap you down, and then go into my turn and do whatever I want. But, you know, it's definitely a potential option. Swings in for 8. So that's fine. I'll take it. And at that point chooses to pass the turn. I say that's fine. I'm very comfortable if you just choose to pass the turn to me. Try to see if I want to do anything during my upkeep, ultimately deciding not to, moving to recovery, calling a stone. So here I am. It's 3 will to 5 will, and I was on the draw, which feels really good. Having the Acolyte survive any kind of length of time feels solid. Trying to think about how I want to play this card. You see I have that Guinevere there. Choosing to pay 1, pay 2. To go ahead and do Grand Lightning and just getting rid of the Isis now while I have the opportunity. Now he could choose to float the will in response. Whether or not he had anything to use that will with is debatable. So just letting it sit there is not a bad idea. Thinking about playing the Misty Woods, ultimately choosing just to leave up the 3 will, particularly because we have the Izanami as well. So the Misty Woods isn't really doing as much, whereas the leaving it up as is will give us some advantage. Another Raise and Revive during the upkeep. Trying to get rid of the Dark Alice. Since it's during the upkeep, it's probably better to just let that sit. Ultimately, though, we do choose to try to cancel it. If he's that worried about our Dark Alice being on board, we would rather just have it be played this way. I think this is an incorrect play line on my side of the field. It's kind of dependent on how much I really need to worry about that will right now. And I think there's part of it that's based on having the perfect Loki, or making sure that if you're going to kill something, I want it in the grave to set up for the perfect Loki Izanami later. So removing it from game is not really what I want you to do. So I'd rather cancel it. He gets to do another Nyarlathotep here. He's going to use Izanami. He starts to target the Isis, and then we're like, wait a minute, you can't actually do that. It's been removed from game. So we have to go back. There's no actual cards in his graveyard besides the 2 Raise and Revives. So we kind of rewind it there. This is why having, 2 separate piles very clear is helpful. We're also kind of telegraphing that we have Erendite will here potentially, which might be the reason why we're not seeing John pay in for the awakening of a Nyarlathotep, because he doesn't want it to get punished. Ultimately choosing to play Awakening of the Flame King, choosing the mode to burn the board for 4 and then cheat in a 3-drop or less. This will kill off my Acolyte of the Sun while also getting him a 3-drop, which is not bad. But he only has the Nyarlathotep, so he's just going to essentially have paid 1 more will to get rid of the Acolyte of the Sun. I'm not entirely sold on that play, particularly because you could have just burned the moon to pop it, if you really cared, while keeping 1 will open, but it is a still kind of, you paid 2 cards to kill 1 card kind of thing. But he does have his moon at this point to be able to kill the Dark Alice as well, so there's some potential advantage there. So swings in for 4, I take that, I'm fine with that. Plays a Guinevere. just have that ready because his hand seems to start to be kind of running low. Desert Miner swings in for another 4. I'm like, that's fine. Take it down to 24. And then Nyarlathotep's going to go ahead and swing in. Kage's kind of done her job at this point, so I'm like, well, I'll go ahead and block, and we'll see what happens. He does burn the moon to kill the Kaguya, which is not what I was expecting him to do, but we're going to go ahead and in response to the burn 8, we're going to try to bounce the Nyarlathotep back to his hand. He's got no moon on board, and our Kaguya is going to die, that's fine, but we're going to Bewildering Charm, put it back in his hand, so he only has 1 wheel available during my turn. He's going to banish another moon, the Desert Miner, to get the other moon, and then not do anything with it, which is a little bit of a surprise. I would have thought that you would have thought to burn the Dark Alice. The hope, I think, there in the play was that he was going to use it for the protection. The charm, we were going to charm in response to him trying to prevent the next damage, because either one would get it where it needs to be. The burn would get him 1,000 damage, so either way we kind of get what we want. We want to leave him low on will and be able to set up a nice safe Yokai Festival. So his board's clear. He doesn't have anything to be, he's only got the 1 will. He does have the Guinevere up, which is fine, but we now have our Alice's online. He's got nothing to stop him. We'll be able to do a nice, clean 4,000 life point swing here, go back up to 44 and take him down to 18. So we've talked about this before in the Gauntlet footage, but one of the things that Adam really only wants to be using Yokai Festival when it's like a guaranteed out. I probably could have cast it the previous turn or set up for something differently, in such a way that would have made that a little bit smoother, but there really wasn't a reason to do that. I wanted it to be, so now I want Yokai Festival to come down in such a way that I'm so in control that he has to now spend his whole turn considering what to do against the Zalises, and if he can't do anything, then I just win, right? And if he does do anything, then I'm free to do whatever I want on my own turn. Zalis is kind of in this deck is a big tempo card. You want to essentially throw your opponent off kilter, so then their whole game plan has to shift to not trying to do what they wanted, but instead trying to just answer the Zalis. Which if they can't, you win, and if they can, then, again, it wasted their resources, and then you can follow it up with another one, or a revive, or a raise and revive to bring it back, or a Misty Woods to bring it back, all that kind of stuff. So, playing an Izanami from hand, a little bit of an interesting choice. No targets engraved to use it from, so I guess the thought is just to have it. And Nyarlathotep can't answer Zalis by itself. Using the Guinevere to sack the Fallen Angel, sitting a Mind Like Still Water. Down comes a Rook Egg. I apologize for the glare. The lighting just was a little bit wonky that day. Moving to Recovery. Calling Stone. And then straight away just choosing to move into combat. Swinging in for 10 in the air. Seeing if he has any kind of potential response for anything. He is able to Sand Awaken. He casts Sand Awaken on Izanami, but I don't think he realizes that Izanami does not have flying, so Izanami can't block. So that was a little bit of a misplay. So the 10 is going to come through, and so is the second 10, and so that's going to be it for game 1, and we're going to move on to game 2.
As we go into the next game, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell down below so you're notified when all of our videos goes live, and consider supporting the channel by being a member here on YouTube or by checking it out on Patreon for all the cool exclusive perks that come with supporting us. Thank you guys so much. Let's go to the next game.
So in game 2 here, we're just finishing mulligans. I believe John choosing to put Adam on the plate, a draw again, which I think is the right choice, provided he can hit that turn 1 Fallen Angel of Fiery Vengeance. It's just a matter of whether or not he can hit it. If he can't, then putting me on the draw might be a bad thing, but if he can, then it's pretty good for him. Because if I get an Acolyte on turn 1 and he doesn't have an immediate answer for it, then I'm going to get the value out of that card regardless, and at that point in time, the Fallen Angels just aren't going to put in as much work as they could have in other situations. First stone looks like a Heat Ray, so no Fallen Angel. We're going to go ahead and play a Guinevere. Call Stone, Light Vapors, right into the Acolyte, right into a pass turn. So this is like the ideal thing that Adam wants to be doing on the draw. It wants to be able to play Acolyte with its Stone, leave its Energized Will up, flash in a Dark Alice, or play a Rune during the upkeep, and just kind of immediately start going in on the value. Fallen Angel of Fiery Vengeance coming down here on turn 2. A little bit too late. And a turn, we're going to go ahead and flash in Dark Alice. Seeing if there's any response to Dark Alice's effects. Now, I will say there is something to be said about the idea of discarding, of letting your draw for turn happen and then playing the Dark Alice during your own upkeep, particularly because this lets you see 3 cards that Alice could potentially discard, whereas opposed to only letting you see 2. And when you're really digging for that Atom, that 3rd card can make all the difference. Ultimately, I have an Atom already in hand, so I'm not too concerned, but there is play to be thought through that way, and you're really never swinging with Dark Alice, so it doesn't matter if she comes in on your turn or not. So you say we discarded a Atom and then the Burial Rites, which is a sideboard card. We're only pitching that because we have a second one in hand. Obviously, your opponent doesn't know that, so there's some means to potentially thinking about trying to hold on to it, but you also kind of maybe telegraph to your opponent that you have a second one in hand this way. It's really about how much focus your opponent wants to give to it. So he's going to go ahead and, after upkeep, use Guinevere to draw 2 and discard 1, or like as we move out of recovery. Pitch a second Fallen Angel here. Gonna try to shoot the Dark Alice once. Pays 200. Shoots the second Dark Alice again. In response to that, we're gonna go ahead and Bewildering Charm, put it back in our hand. We can make use of it later. Oh, this was during his turn. So we just played the Dark Alice, moved to recovered, and then passed. So getting that 3rd will up, having the Guinevere, both of his Fallen Angels have been used at this point. So once again, our Acolyte is probably just safe. Plays 1. We see a Burial Rites come down to try to hit the Atom. In response, we're going to go ahead and flash in the Dark Alice. In response to that, he's got a second Burial Rites. This is a pretty solid play, to be all honest. It gets the Atom out of the grave. I remove all 3 cards here. It should only hit the Atom, so keep that in mind. However, the thing is that when you're playing a game 2 or 3 as the Dark Alice, you have player Atom using Dark Alice, if you're playing against a deck that has Graveyard Hate on game 2 especially, you're going to discard 1 Atom and then keep 1 in hand as long as you have it, so that as soon as they have spent resources to try to make you discard, you could just immediately turn everything back on. And that's exactly what happened here. He spent 2 cards to try to remove a Dark Atom from my graveyard, and then I just put an Atom right back while also drawing 2 cards thanks to Dark Alice. So didn't really get him much. We go to my turn, choosing to burn the Energize. Here, leaving the blue up just in case he kills my Dark Alice, so we have Erendite Will. We're going to go ahead and Yokai Festival. This is, again, that same situation of we are feeling very, very safe here. He's very, very behind, and we want to keep him on that behind by essentially telling him, you've got 2 turns. You've got a 2-turn clock here. You're low on will, you're low on resources, and I've already given you things that you have to dedicate your resources to, so now I'm just going to start kind of plowing over. This is what Adam wants to do. It is the thing that makes it the tempo variant here. He does have that Light of Sacred Spirit to deal with 1, which is a great answer. Definitely a sideboard staple, I think, against Zalus decks, because it's just a 1 will, 1 card answer, which is nice. But I still get to swing in with the other one, take him down to 26, and go up to $5 grand. Paying 2 will here. Paying for it incorrectly, a Light of Raise and Revive. He spends red and red to black here. Should have used the Heat Ray Stone instead. Catching that misplay a little bit. Using Guinevere to sacrifice himself, just trying to draw into something potentially a little bit better to help with the situation. And then chooses to pass. So unfortunately, just having kind of a really rough start. We're going to go ahead and in the upkeep, going to go ahead and play that Whispers. Gain another 800 life, draw another card because we have the available will to be able to do so, and then move to recovery. Calling another stone, we hit another Light Vapors. You see another Zeus Alice in hand, our own Light of the Sacred Spirit to deal with Nyarlathoteps if they come down. So we're just going to go ahead and start by playing a Light of Reissmann Revive to bring back our our Zeus Alice from the Grave RFG. Swing in for 10. And this is why it's relevant. So he plays the second Light of Reissmann Revive here, which he technically shouldn't have been able to do because he only has one white will. So keep that in mind here. Ultimately, once again, we're still fine with it. We have 3 will. He's going to 4 will. We've got lots of answers in hand, and I believe at this point we have Kaguya live to be able to cancel something. And Light of Sacred Spirit to answer any Nyarlathoteps that might come down. So this is kind of an opportunity for Isis, if it has stuff in hand, to be able to kind of try to reestablish, right? It has an opportunity to make some plays in such a way that I have to start trying to spend resources to do it, and I'm not as safe to just kind of run the field. The problem is, again, that 3 will for Adam is absolutely a lot to deal with. And so any way that John is playing a card, he has to think about, okay, what could potentially come down that might be more will efficient than mine, less will efficient than mine, anything else. So we're playing this Nyarlathotep Awaken for 1. In response to the Awakening, we're going to go ahead and use Erendite to stop it. We don't want him getting a moon. Then John here, after that takes place, is thinking about playing a Godly Aura, it seems. Might be the thought. Does have a Godly Aura in hand. Could also use the Godly Aura from Rune Deck. Chooses to use the Godly Aura from hand, though I think the proper play would be to use the one from Rune Deck. Leaves some mystery as to what's in your hand. In response to the Godly Aura cast, though, I'm waiting to see what he's doing here, what he's trying to target. He's going to try to burn his own Rugag, and then generate a moon and draw a card. So in response to that, we're going to go ahead and do Light of Sacred Spirits on the Nyarlathotep to get it removed from game, and then we're going to use another Bewildering Charm to put the Rugag back in his hand. So the edit brings us back to having the life totals on screen. I apologize for that. So we kind of hard punish the play line here by not letting him search, getting his Nyarlathotep off board. All he has is a moon, nothing to really do with it, and now John is completely wide open for the whole rest of the turn. So we're going to play that Misty Woods, get a Kaguya off of the top there, pay 3. Down comes the Zeus Alice from hand. That's going to swing in for 10, take him down to 16, back up to 68. Pass the turn there, once again leaving the will up, but the problem is at this point in time he knows I have the will available to do a Kaguya, so any kind of his impactful play, his most impactful play is probably going to get countered here. It's just a bad spot for Isis to be in. Down comes that Rugag that we've seen before. A Desert Miner as well coming down here. Playing 3 for Izanami Hardcast. Ultimately, we're not even going to worry about canceling it. None of that is going to stop a Zeus Alice that's on field, so we're just going to let it ride. Dispel to go ahead and pop a Moon, just because. And then move into Recovery. Call Stone. And our 4th Light Vapors here. A lot of blue will available here. Swinging him for 10, take him down to 6. Paying 1 to play a Dark Alice, which essentially is going to seal the game up at this point because it gets us 2 Dark Alices on the board, so there's no way for him to possibly remove our graveyard. We're going to sacrifice the Dark Alice, and I think we discard a Guinevere at this point because it doesn't matter, and then we can use Misty Woods to bring back the Zeus Alice onto the field and then swing in for lethal from there. So that is the match. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Deck profiles will be up later this week, and until next time, this is DMO73 saying class dismissed.